This is the fifth small group discussion with J. Krishnamurti in Bombay, 1977.
So I don't know what other people want to discuss. I think I seem to be providing most of the problems which concern me, so I'm open to anyone else having another view. But I thought we could discuss one of the chief blockages in our capacity to understand what you're saying and see its implications in our daily living. And that is the factor of self-centered activity.
Self-centered activity.
Self-centered activity.
Good idea. Let's discuss it. Would you explore it? Would somebody start?
It doesn't matter what we do.
Come nearer.
It doesn't matter what we do. The concern with the implications of what we are doing on ourselves seems to color the doing. And is there a way of operating where even though this concern with the self may exist, we could sort of put it in its place?
All right, shall we start?
Yes.
When you talk about self-centeredness, center means a periphery.
Yeah.
Right?
Sorry.
Come this way. You can sit more easily. Can we say that where there is a center, there is a boundary? Could we begin with that?
Yes, where there is.
And where there is a center and a boundary or a periphery, all action must be within that center and periphery. Could we proceed from there? The center implies a periphery, a boundary. A limitation. And all action must be within that circle. That's what I would consider self-centered activity.
What are the boundaries of the self?
It can be limitless and be very limited. But it's always a boundary.
Limitless?
Limitless. You can push it as far
Push
as you
it,
like.
social commitment, this commitment, it can be limitless.
You can push it as far as you like.
So long as the center is there, whether it is long or
That's
short,
it.
right?
No,
Boundary
as
is-
long as there is a center,
There must be a boundary.
there is a periphery, a
Yeah.
boundary,
Yes.
but that boundary can be stretched.
Yes, stretch.
That's why I'm
Not
stretch,
limitless.
stretch as far as you like.
Yeah.
Does that mean that there is no limit to the stretching? Let us get this, because we sometimes
Let's
get
go
caught in
slowly.
that
Let's
trap.
go slowly. Let's get clear. When we talk about self-centered activity, that's what's implied. A center and a periphery, a limitation, and within that circle, all action takes place, which is self-centered activity. I think about myself, and I make a progress towards something. It is still within, from a center to a point, within the periphery, within that circle. So, but open that door, somebody is around. We are discussing this. Babaji started out asking what is self-centered activity. And in exploring that a little bit, we've come to the point that where there is a center, however extended that center may expand itself, it is still within the boundary, and therefore within that circle all action takes place. That's how far as we've gone. And we also said, from the center you can stretch as far as you like. Social service. Is anybody here social service? Social service, democratic or electric dictatorship, and tyranny, everything within that area.
Also awakening of kundalini and everything.
Huh?
Also awakening of kundalini and all
Oh,
that.
no, sir, just a minute. The awakening of kundalini. Do you want to go into that?
No, sir,
Yes,
I
sir.
said
Yes,
that
sir.
also
Yes,
can
sir.
become
We want to go
a
into.
projection of the center.
That's one of the things I have been wanting.
So you won't wake up.
That's one of the things I have been wanting to go into, but I have restrained myself.
Seems to be more interesting than the center.
Yes, we would like
It
to.
seems to be more interesting than the center and self-centered activity.
So as it is understood in the circles interested in this in India, it has become a form of sophisticated behaviorism.
All
That means
behavior,
center.
good, bad, trying to become something,
Yes.
trying not to become something, to achieve, to become
More.
arrive at enlightenment, all that. Where there is a center, there must be a periphery, and all action takes place within that. Cleverness, business, and everything in that area. Gods, rituals, right, sir? So my point is, what? What's the point?
The point
Not Kundalini.
No, sir. Quite right. The point is it possible for an action which does not
Have a center.
have
No.
Or can there be an
which does
action?
not nourish a center?
No. Can there be no center? Not?
Not action.
So that will be not from our...
No.
because sir, we start with the centers. How can we take that position? We can honestly, factually say that we know there is a center, and we know that every activity, including breathing, nourishes that center. Now we want to know...
No, I wouldn't accept the breathing. Come off it.
No, sir, when you do breathing deliberately and say, now I am going to do this kind of kumbhak and I am going to do that kind of kumbhak.
And that is not necessarily the center. That may be mere physical exercise. That
I
is
know,
not.
sir, but usually if we are seeking some other end out of it, I will wipe it out, sir. We'll only say this, that is it possible for a man not to nourish his center?
Not to.
Nourish it by action. By any kind of action.
You want to discuss that?
Is it possible, I'm taking it a little, is it possible to awaken
Kundalini.
such energy, I won't use the word, such energy as will, without any volition on my part, wipe out?
Yes. That's a whole question.
That's a good question.
That's a different question. That's a different question altogether. But the point is, the energy that's expended within the circumference and the center is a limited energy, mechanical energy. Circumference, a center implies, I don't, must we go into all this?
No, sir, it's quite clear.
Not verbally, actually, inside you, where there is a center, there must be circumference. And any action that takes place within that area is limited, fragmented, and therefore wastage of energy.
Sir, if these words, they are describing in a geometric way, the center and circumference. But if you want to feel that...
Would you kindly draw those curtains, somebody? Because we can't see each other. Oh, the complete darkness. I forgot.
We can put on some lights.
No, it's okay. We can put the light.
Mr. Dore, is there light on this? Lights.
That when we talk that there is a circumference and a center, it's all a geometrical statement. Circumference, center, and so on. Now, if you want to realize it, the thing in itself, in ourselves, that will be the first problem.
That is the problem, sir. We are selfish entities. We are self-centered entities, human beings. Self-centered human beings are completely selfish. Either you can be completely selfish. Think about yourself, your worries, your family, you, the center. Or you can move that center to a social work, to political work, but it's still the center operating.
That's a little more subtle to see, because you can concern yourself with something in which you feel the center is not involved.
You may think so, but it is. I work for the poor, which is a mania in this country. I work for the poor, but I am still working within that limitation.
Sir, I want some clarification. It is not the work for the poor which is in itself.
No. It
So
is
let us be very
the
clear on that.
identification of myself with the poor.
With the-
My identification of myself with the nation, identification of myself with God, if there is God, identification of myself with some ideal, and so on. That is always moving from the center to the circumference, to the periphery. And therefore it's a very limited energy. It's self-destructive energy.
I think the question that Pulji asked was very relevant, that this movement of the mind and this habit of this movement of the mind constantly, which expends, exhausts, can it, by energy sprouting out, can this movement be stilled? Can it be made silent? Or how does this movement of the mind, which is all the time exhausting in identification, this, that, and the other, center to the periphery, periphery to the center all the time, what energy sprouts out, gushes out, silences it, or makes it irrelevant, makes it seem stupid, or like a shadow.
I don't quite follow you, sir.
No, it really says this. We have done everything to try and understand the nature of this self-centered activity. We have observed, we have meditated, we have observed, we have meditated, but the thing doesn't cease, sir.
No, because I think we make a mistake. We don't actually perceive in our heart, with our mind altogether, that any action within this periphery, from the center to the periphery, and then from what do you call it?
Circumference.
From that to the center, this movement back and forth is a wastage of energy. And must be limited, must bring in more sorrow, everything within that area. We don't see that.
So is it if it is part of our brain cells, and if it is the action of our brain cells to constantly throw out these ripples which get caught in, which are in a sense self-centered activity.
No, because just look, the brain, as we said, which I think most of the scientists would agree, the brain specialists, needs two things: security and and a sense of permanency.
Both those are provided by the cell.
That's why it becomes important.
Both
You
those.
see the importance of it.
So is the brain, which is a mechanical or a physical entity, with its habit for security, seeking security or continuance, how do you get out of this habit or this mechanical obstruction? I think that's what Pupulji has been hinting at.
I don't want to
Sir,
get
I
out.
think we
No,
have moved
any
one-
movement you see to get out is still within the periphery.
See, this is what I mean. That it is a habit. You are got into a rut, the habit of seeking security or continuance.
Sir, I think we have moved one step further than this. With you, we have moved one step further than this. I think our minds, our brains, every bit of our thinking process is totally convinced that there is no security, there is no permanence, and that permanence and security are both the creations of ignorance. That is to say, we have seen, actually we have, I don't think those of us who have been with you can, no, there is not 1% resistance in the mind. I would like to ask Pupulji also, because I say that when you make a statement that the greatest security is the recognition of insecurity, that impermanence is the perfume of life. When you make these statements, there is not one fragment of our being which is in discord with it, that is dissonance with it. It completely goes with it and it accepts it, and it is, I don't see an accept in the sense of conformity, but there is like hearing a tuning fork and you hear a
Yes,
note.
sir. What is it you are trying to say?
I am saying that we have heard that true note and we have said that is the true note.
But is there a move, is there an action
That-
which is not self-centered?
I am coming back to Pupulji's question, that she says that there is an energy of attention.
No, I asked it in a little different way.
Yeah, she put it differently.
I said, I mean, whatever we may strike when we hear Krishnaji, with a number of our actions, we observe ourselves in self-centered activity and it ceases. We know all that, we know that. We know a state, for instance, where it appears as if the self is not. But then if the seed of it is held within the brain cells, it will repeat itself again.
That's what your
I
point.
mean, is the
It's-
physical brain, or whatever you call it, is it a barrier? And how do you surmount this barrier?
And if that is so, if it is held within the brain cells and its own action will throw it out, then I say to myself, there must be another energy.
Ulterior.
There must be another way,
Quality of mind.
another quality, which will wipe it out.
You see, the computer that is our brain and our behavior patterns and actions conditioned by
I call
society,
it
etc., it has
energy.
become so
Because it
complicated.
has to come through.
It has become so complicated now, and the computerized feedings and feedbacks and whatever you do in programming is becoming more and more complicated every day. Now,
So-
what energy? Is it only attention? Is it silence? Is it exterior? Is it interior?
Our brain is programmed, to use that word, for centuries, to function from the center to the periphery, from the circumference to the center, this back and forth movement. It is programmed for that, it is trained for that, it is conditioned for that, right? Conditioning. So, you're asking a question. Is it possible to break that conditioning? Is it possible to break the momentum of the brain cells which have been moving in that direction all the time, to stop it forever? That's it, isn't it?
No, I am not asking that question.
This is my question.
That was his question.
Yeah.
I am not asking whether you can break that momentum. I am asking you another question altogether. Is there another
Energy,
I am going
which
back
has no
to
motive
that.
at all.
Is which will, without my volition,
Huh?
without any volition,
Wipe out
it
this.
out.
Obliterate the whole.
And you know, sir,
Wait, you're asking, there are two questions, let's be clear. There are two questions, which is, can this momentum, can this programmed brain, which has been conditioned for millennia, can that stop?
And decondition itself.
Stop. Moment it stopped,
Yes.
it's broken the movement.
Yeah.
I found
You
something.
must see.
Right, sir? Moment it stops, you have broken it. The other question is there an energy which is not self-centered movement, an energy without a motive, without a cause, energy which is endless, right?
and then if you, and is it possible? I'm putting it very tentatively. Is it possible to investigate
That energy. We are going to.
So to which I wanted to add one little
Codicil.
that we only know attention. The only instrument we have is attention. So any energy that you posit is an energy which to us must become manifest as attention. Because either
Why do
you
you
think
say
that it is an
must?
external, it is God helping, this helping.
no,
I said to
I
my
don't-
mind,
no,
it must
I
be
don't
clear
want
that it
to-
is only attention is the only instrument we have.
I don't want to, if I may say so.
Why do you postulate us to
I
say
don't
that
want to
must
postulate anything.
I-
I'm asking
I will
something.
wipe it out.
I'm asking something to Krishnaji, which if I may say, we have not asked. And that is, any words I put into will be,
No, these are not.
Quite simply, tell us something about kundalini.
So may I put
I understand what
or
you're
not.
asking. May I put it?
yes,
Yeah?
sir,
You're
you
asking,
can reform Adhikar.
is there an energy which is not from the center, an energy which is not without a cause, an energy which is inexhaustible and therefore non-mechanical? Right? Is that what you're asking? Now let's settle the first question. We have discovered something, that is, the brain has been conditioned through millennia to move from the center to the circumference, and from the circumference move to the center, back and forth, extending it, limiting it, so on. And is there a way of ending that movement? Which we just now said, it ends when there is a stopping, when the plug is pulled out. That the brain stops moving in that direction. And if there is any causation for stop, you're still back again in the circle.
In the external and but
Any cause, internal or external.
yes.
Well, does that answer? That is, can the brain, which has been conditioned for millennia to act from the center to the periphery and from the periphery to the center, that movement stops. Now the next question will be, is that possible? You follow? I think that's the wrong question. When you see the necessity of stopping, the brain itself sees the movement and says, when it stops, it has ended the movement. I wonder if I'm making myself clear.
Yes, sir, but it starts again. It stops the movement for a while, but then it starts again, sir.
Yes, sir. Give me your hand. No, sir. The moment you say if you want it again, you're back in the center. Right?
Probably he means how to bring the permanent stop.
I don't. That's greed. If I see the truth or the fact, moment there is the cessation of this movement, the ending of that movement, the thing is over. It may over. It is not a continuous stoppage. When you want it continuous, it's a time movement.
The seeing, sir, then is without movement.
Yeah.
The seeing that it has come to an end or dead end, that seeing is a movement which is out of the center, which is on a different dimension.
No, seeing, observing the whole movement of the center to the circumference, from the circumference to the center. That movement is what it is, with which you are familiar.
But that seeing is without any center.
Of course, of course.
So that seeing is in a different plane, a different dimension altogether.
I see there is a perception of it when you are aware of it. Without any choice, aware, just be aware of this movement. The program stops. Let's leave that. We'll come back to that. Next question is, which probably you're all waiting. The proposed question is there an energy which is non-mechanistic, which has no causation, and therefore energy that is constantly renewing itself, constantly, is endless without it. Isn't that the question? Yeah. What do you say?
So there is an energy of death, sir.
Death. What do you mean? So, I died. What is the death? Death in the sense of ending?
Yeah, total ending.
That is total ending of the movement.
What I know is myself.
No, total, just listen, you've said some total ending of this movement from the center to the circumference. That is death, in one sense.
Yes, sir.
Is that the energy which is causeless?
It is causeless.
You state it, sir.
Yes, sir. It comes like a flood, sir.
I understand, but is that a supposition, a theory, or an actuality?
An actuality.
Which means what? That there is no center from which you are acting.
But sir, for that period when that energy is there.
No, not period. You see,
there's a sense of timelessness then, because
at the second, all right, at that second, then what takes place?
Then again the thought comes back.
So you're back again from the center to the periphery, and then the remembrance of that incident and wanting that incident.
Right, sir.
Which is again operating from the center to the periphery.
One gets afraid also, sir, of not only wanting it again, one gets afraid of that particular thing happening again because it's total death.
It has happened without your invitation.
Yes, sir.
Now you are inviting.
I don't know whether I'm inviting or whether I'm afraid of it.
Yes, afraid, inviting, whatever. It is still within the field of this sense.
Right, it's within the field.
That's all.
That's right.
The other question is what Pupulji raised about endless energy. You want to discuss about kundalini?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir, please. Because that is kundalini.
So first of all, if you really want to discuss it, dialogue about it, would you forget everything you have heard about it?
Yes, sir.
Right, sir.
Would you? And this we are entering into a subject which is very serious, not just amusement for a moment. If you are willing to forget everything that you have read about it, your gurus have told it, or your attempt to awaken it, everything start with carte blanche. You know what carte blanche? With complete empty slate. Can you? So don't say yes, because this is. What do you say, sir?
I agree, sir. Mind is open,
so,
clear.
Then you have to inquire. Not knowing anything, really not knowing anything. You understand, sir? About kundalini, what people have said, about all the attempts that are being made. You know what's happening now in America and people in Europe? These kundalini centers are being formed. You follow, sir? By people who say, I have had the experience of the kundalini, awakening of it, the pain of it, and all the rest of it, and it brings a different kind of energy, which scientists are interested in, and they say we can do certain forms of exercise, breathing, this, that, the other, you will have it. And this is being trotted out all over the world. And therefore it's becoming a money-making concern, and it is being given to people who are terribly mischievous. You understand, sir? A good businessman wants this kind of energy. A good, he says, give it to me, I'll make millions out of it. For all that kind of horror is going on.
In Europe, sir, and in Italy, I was told by a professor that the communists have been starting the yogic center.
Yes, sir, I know.
Because they can then influence the minds.
I know.
you get a power, as it were, to influence the mind of others. So it has become a method of thought control.
That's right, sir. This is what the gurus have done. This is what the propagandist Madison Avenue has done in a different way.
And he was blaming me for bringing, supporting
Yes,
these
sir,
things.
I
He was
know.
supporting communism.
I know. So, is that the reason you want to know what this energy is? Huh? Huh?
No, sir.
It is for knowing whether that energy can throw away the present condition.
What, sir?
We have presently some conditioning and living under that. Whether it can be thrown by that.
No, sir. No, sir. This self-centered activity has been done. Not something else will break it. You see, so where we are leading to. That's why I object to this discussion to kundalini or whatever that energy is, because we haven't done this spade work. We don't lead a life of correctness. We follow all that and we want to add something new to it, so as to carry on our mischief.
Even after awakening kundalini, self-centered activity continue.
What's that?
Even after awakening kundalini, self-centered activity continue.
I haven't done it, sir.
Even
I see
after.
people, sir, who claim that they have awakened kundalini, and yet self-centered activity continues.
I question, sir, whether they have awakened kundalini. I don't know what they mean by it.
So we really want to understand this energy because it is an actuality sometimes.
No,
Sir, I want to ask you one question. We know in energy, when self-centered activity ends for an instant, we assume that that is the source of endless energy. It may not be.
are you saying the ending of this movement from the center to circumference and from the circumference to the center, the ending of that?
Momentary ending of this, which we
No,
know.
the ending of it, completely ending of it, is the release of that energy, which is limitless.
I don't say that.
I'm saying that.
Which is a very different thing to my saying.
Huh?
Which is a very different thing to my saying.
Can we put this energy, kundalini energy, in its right place? Can we?
Yes.
So lots of people have this experience. That what they call kundalini, which I question. I don't mean I question. When I say I question, I mean I want to investigate it. I'm not opposing it. I'm not saying I'm silly enough to say they're wrong. I say I question it. You understand? I question whether it is an actual reality or some kind of physiological activity and then attribute it to kundalini. Or it's some kind of physical disease. I'm taking all this into account and then say it's kundalini. While they live immoral life, in the sense, stupid, vanity and self-centered life. Kundalini, when they say they've got it and show their daily life with self-centered life, I question. I wonder.
So let us, if we are going to examine it, let us see it in one sense. Kundalini, the awakening of Kundalini is linked to certain psychic centers located at certain physical parts of the body.
That's what he said. That's
That
right.
is what he said. That is the first question I would like to ask
What
you.
he
That has the release of this energy which has no end anything to do with psychic centers in the physical parts of the body?
You're asking a lot of things.
Before we go into that, sir, I think the question which you have posed is a very important question which receives very little attention, and that is that if there has to be an accession of energy through this, that and the other thing, it is very necessary to see that the person is incapable of doing harm.
No, sir.
To himself or to others.
No, be careful. Be careful. Incapable. Sir, how can you say somebody is incapable of doing harm? This saying, the Indian saints have done tremendous harm, misleading people.
That's what I say, sir, that I feel that unless the person's heart is cleansed of hate and his urge to do harm is completely transmuted, unless that has happened,
Sir,
then this energy can be nothing but more mischief.
Ajiji, that we'll come to that question. What Pupuji is asking is, there is the standard acceptance of the power, this energy, going through various centers and releasing and so on.
I say, sir, that before we ask that question, there is in the Indian tradition a word which I think is very valuable. That word is adhikar. Adhikar means that the person must cleanse himself sufficiently before he can pose this question to himself. It's a question of, I call it cleansing, but really it is
That's
a
good
question
enough,
of...
sir. That's good enough. Are you saying, unless there is a stoppage of this movement from the center to the circumference, from the circumference to the center, that Pupu's question is not valid?
I think so. I say,
That's-
I'll use another word, sir. That word, the Buddhist word is Shila. It's really the same. The word adhikar used by the Hindus, the word Shila used by the Buddhists, they really mean the same thing, that unless you have the requisite...
Sir,
May I ask one
I
question?
communicate.
No, but may I ask one question? I take it that when one asks a question of this kind, that at least there is a depth of self-knowing with which one asks it. I mean, I cannot make any other statement about it, but in that way, even to investigate the self, which also releases energy.
of course.
If one's life is
Same.
frankly, if one's life is not has not gone through a degree of inner balance, what he says will have no meaning. How will it ever enter into the depths of the consciousness where it has been received, unless the self-knowing has been deep enough to at least expose the depths of our consciousness to what he's saying? It will just be like reading anything about kundalini. I mean, when one listens to Krishnaji, one receives it at the depth to which one has exposed oneself. And therefore I think it is right to ask the question.
Sir, if I may explain what I just a little, that there is an artist. There is an artist. and the creativity of that artist.
So I question just a minute, sir. I question if the artist is creative unless he's living a holistic life. Finished.
I concede that. So what I want to say is that the touch of creativity that an artist may get in a normal selfless existence does not call upon that accession of energy which Pupulji is talking of. I am submitting.
We are talking at two different levels.
Sorry.
I am asking.
It may be relevant.
I am asking one question. Why is it more dangerous? I'll use one word to ask Krishnaji this question rather than any other question, rather than a question of what is God, what is meditation, what this, what. Why is this question more dangerous? To the mind which will comprehend, he will comprehend this and that. To the mind which will not comprehend, he will comprehend neither. To the mind who wants to misuse, he can misuse anyone.
I won't agree. I won't agree.
That's obvious, sir.
I won't agree.
That energy can be dangerous to the organism.
But it's not going to awaken in us.
Yes.
One
Question and answer.
Might.
No, I question. I should. Unless you lead daily life a complete non-self-centered way of living, the other cannot possibly come.
That is a different level. That energy, when the self-centered activity ends and whatever comes in its place, that's totally different thing from kundalini or whatever.
No, sir.
It's all speculation.
It's all speculation.
Gopalji,
No, what is
Mr. Anand, some people have talked to me who have had this awakening of kundalini. Many things happen to them. They are frightened of it. Many of them are frightened.
Continuous rising of energy.
A rising of energy, so many lights seen, so many
centers.
things happening to them. They are frightened.
But I mean, if you start investigating the self, you get certain
No,
psychic
we would like to.
experience.
What is that energy which creates fear? What is it? What?
Fear comes later.
First
One
is the delight.
experiences death, and everything vanishes, and you're dead, and you're alive again, and you're surprised that you're alive again, and you find the world again, and your thoughts, and your possessions, and your desires, and the whole world slowly comes back. And there's a tremendous weakness.
Would you call that?
I don't understand.
Would you call that, sir, the awakening of the kundalini?
I do not know, sir, but
That's what
Why
is
do you
generally
don't
known.
label it as the awakening?
That's the whole thing.
I need to label it.
You're labeled, so forgive me.
So generally
But
it is
sir,
called.
for a few days after that, for a period of a month, the whole life changes.
Yes, sir. I
Sex
understand.
vanishes, desires vanish. Your whole
And you
life,
come back to it again.
You come back to it because of
Then-
fear, because one doesn't
So
understand
that's
what
what
has
I am
happened.
saying, sir. When there is a coming back to something, I question whether you have had that energy.
Right.
I'm not saying you
I
have.
myself question it.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yes.
I won't
No,
talk.
That's right.
So I'm only saying that why has this question of mine awakened so much?
I know, but
Well-
it's a lot of interest.
No,
What's
and
the-
so
what is
much.
this experience which he is talking?
No, but most people go through
Something or the other.
a great deal of psychic experiences in the process of self-knowing. But also understands, at least one has understood, maybe because one has listened to Krishnaji and been with him, that a psychic experience when it comes has to be put aside.
That's understood. Psychic experience must be totally put aside.
Yes, you have told.
I mean,
said that.
one is, and it's only then that
It's wiped out.
If I may say so, the sanity of approach
At the
remains.
very beginning, sir.
Quite right.
Huh?
This point that Pupulji had just now said, that any what you said, that psychic experience, if it comes, must be put aside. This is one of the beginning of
That's
things.
right.
I remember hearing this 25 years ago.
I know, sir.
So I say that we start with this.
That we give no importance to the
We
psychic.
put it aside, not only don't give it.
Some new passages do get open in the body, and this energy keeps rising in those passages
Yes.
whenever it is required.
Those are physical experience.
It may
No,
be
no,
physical, but it's
I
very
don't
actual.
know.
It's
It's
not
very
psychic.
difficult to
You can't
talk
put
of
that
another
You can't
person.
put them aside. It happens.
It's
You
very
shiver,
difficult.
your nerves shiver. You get
Sir,
tremendous
would
headaches.
you call that, just a minute, sir, why do you call it something extraordinary? No, why do we attribute something extraordinary? I'm just suggesting that it may be that you have become very sensitive.
You do become very sensitive, that's true.
That's all. Very acutely sensitive.
You have more energy than you ever had before.
Sensitivity has more energy.
The movement of energy is
Yes, sir,
upwards.
yes. Sensitivity, if you are really sensitive, you follow your body. But why do you call it an extraordinary kundalini, this, that, the other?
The real problem is to what extent is your life totally changed?
That's
I mean, the only meaning of any awakening is if there is a totally a new way of looking at things, a new way of living, a new way of relationship.
Before
It
we
comes with
enter the area of consequences of
I
this,
say that-
I think we should
So
inquire
we-
into the nature
No,
of
I don't think
what
we.
Krishnaji
I
is
don't.
saying.
No, no. We have. My question is even not been posed as yet.
Yes.
May I suggest, there is a new way, but the old brain is always in conflict
How
with
do
it.
I-
The old habits.
never,
Yes,
sir. That is the whole point. People miss it.
We all know. You see what you are talking about. We all have some experience of, and we have seen that it has its own place. We have put it into a place. I'm not denying what you're talking about it, but it has a place. But to say that it is this,
Then what is the real kundalini? If this is not kundalini.
but I mean,
But nobody's let Krishnaji speak.
So one question, taking for granted that one is living a holistic life, is there something like the kundalini, raising the kundalini?
So, is there if you lead a holistic life, is there something else? That's an impossible question. If, when you drop the if, are you living a holistic life? Therefore, don't ask the question.
So I'm only asking about the validity of a thought like this, the concept
No,
of the
sir.
raising of kundalini.
no, I'm not. You see, I'm asking from a
Totally different point, I know. Go on, pose that question once more. Pose it.
I posed one question to you, and that is that Kundalini, as it is understood, is the awakening that there are certain psychic energies which exist at certain physical points in the human body, and that it is possible to awaken these psychic energies
Through various practices, which then, as they go through these various psychophysical states and centers, transmute consciousness, and when they finally break through, you're through with self-center as such.
You're through what?
With the self-centered activity. This must be the basic meaning of the word.
And I call this sophisticated behavior.
What?
I call this sophisticated behavior.
Yes, Ashish can do it, Charles
Behavior.
can do it,
Behavior.
Raj can do it, mescaline can do it, peyote can do it.
No, I'm just asking Krishnaji whether there is an energy. You see, you're moving away from the central point. Whether there is an energy which, again one is trapped in words, which on awakening, not being awakened, but on awakening, completely wipes out the self.
I would say the other way.
Sir,
Unless the self-centered movement stops, the other cannot be.
Sir, may I
You
say
mean the
something
question
here?
cannot be asked from this side at all?
No, sir,
The question has.
I-
That's the first question.
So I don't know why we.
I want to say that there is in the Hindu, Buddhist, Jain tradition a deviation, a major.
Jesus, I don't want to what tradition says.
No, sir. It is very important because it is going under the name of religion. And I say that the whole Hatha Yoga tradition has engendered a belief that by manipulating these
Yes, sir, I know this.
centers, that you can do things to yourself. I say the whole idea is based on a wrong belief, and I
Alright,
feel
I
that
wipe out everything I have said.
we should wipe out.
Let me ask you another question. It seems I would have liked for myself to inquire into it, but it seems as if it is not possible. What is the nature of the field of the human mind which needs to be prepared? What is the nature of the human mind, including the human brain, which needs to be prepared to be able to receive that which is limitless? Let me put it.
What are you asking? Huh? You are asking what is the soil in which that energy can take place.
Yes. Now we won't talk about the energy as such.
Huh?
I'm talking of the nature of the soil, which is the nature of our own consciousness, which is the nature of our own brain cells, and I'm asking, what is the nature of this soil, which includes the brain cells, in which alone
are you cultivating the soil of the brain and the mind in order to receive it?
You see, sir,
answer my question.
I understand
Answer my question.
No, I understand your question. But I can neither say yes nor no to it.
Then why
Because
bother
if-
about that energy entering the soil? Prepare, work at it.
Why does one prepare the soil?
No, no.
Let
no,
me ask-
No, I make it very simple. I live a life of contradiction, conflict, misery, and all the rest of it. I want to find out if it can end my sorrow, the whole human sorrow, and compassion and all the rest of it. I'm going to that. I don't want to inquire into nothing else.
Asking the question, is there any other way of living with compassion, etc., is also part of cultivating the soil, wanting a motive for the soil.
Please, you haven't.
You asked that question.
What
Why
is
are
it?
you asking this question? This cultivating the soil.
What?
Why do you want to cultivate the soil?
I never said cultivate the soil.
I asked.
She
asked the question, sir.
So
You
I'm-
asked back a question.
I understand what the question is. I say, as long as you have a motive to cultivate that soil in order to receive that energy, you will never receive it.
What is the motive, sir?
What
to
is
see
the-
this whole prison, to see this whole prison, and say, ask whether there is any other way or a way out of this is a motive. Then one gets caught with any question becomes a.
Please, you have to listen. I live a life of torture, misery, confusion. That's the basic thing. right? And can that end?
That's all right.
There is no motive.
There is no motive, but
Wait.
you are also asking a further question.
No, I'm going to go further question except that first question. Can that whole process end? Then only I can answer other questions which have tremendous significance. It's like giving me an extraordinary toy, extraordinary something in my rotten little life.
One cannot say one has not asked only that question, sir.
What is the question you're asking?
You are any question about the other of a different energy, you say should not be asked at all
No,
because it is
I'll
still
ask
within
it.
the speech.
I will ask it.
How will I ask?
You've asked me.
I've asked you.
She's asked me.
That's all.
And I said, look.
I thought you said you can't ask it.
I said, no. Sunanda, do.
And I will continue to ask.
You meant.
You see,
by
sir,
implication that
I may not ask you here, but I will continue to ask you that.
What is the question you're asking?
No, sir, I have withdrawn my question just now. The second one, the second question which I've asked is, what is the nature of the soil of the human mind, which has to be cultivated
to receive the other?
To receive the other. You tell me that is also a wrong question.
Yes, you said this just now.
You say that is a wrong question. You say, I am in conflict, I am in suffering, and I see that a life of conflict and suffering has to end.
That's all. Then I'll ask you, if it cannot end, the other, the inquiry and the investigation and wanting to awaken the other in order to wipe this out is a wrong process. Obviously. That's asking an outside agency to come and clear up your house. I said, in the process of clearing the house, this house, there are a great many things that are going to happen. You will have, there was clairvoyance and all the rest of it, all the so-called siddhis. They'll all happen, but if you're caught in them, you are done. You can't proceed any further if you're caught in them. If you're not caught in them, you can, the heavens are open to you. Heaven, you said don't remember. So you're asking for both. There's the soil that has to be prepared, not in order to receive that, but the soil has to be prepared, right? Because you live a contradictory and so on life, prepare, work there, clean the house. So completely there isn't a shadow of escape. Then we can ask, what is this thing they're all talking about? I am doing that. I'm preparing the soil. I'm preparing, I'm working, not preparing. I'm working at this, at the ending of sorrow, all the rest of it. I'm working at it, tooth and nail. I'm not letting it go. And somebody comes along and says, look, there is the extraordinary energy in the kundalini and the sensitivity and various chakras and so on, so on, so on. What do you answer to that? That's the point. That is the point you're raising.
What does who answer?
You ask that question.
I ask.
And what is a man who says, look, I've finished with this. I've understood this, I'm working at it.
No, you see, sir, the difference is this. I can never say I have understood it. I can only say I am working it.
That's all. I said that.
Yes, you said.
You see,
I said
I
that.
can
You can
never
never
say
say,
I
I'm
am
free.
through with it. Now what?
Correct?
Yes.
So what?
So, you, working at it. You mean the question is not valid to ask?
No, I say it is valid. If you're working at that. If I'm working at that, and you come along and say, there is this thing as kundalini power, whatever you call it, then I'm willing to listen. But if you deny this and say, I'll have that first and this will...
No, that doesn't.
Right?
Yes.
So, if you're saying, I am working at this day and night, that's my job, that's my life, that's my... And you come along and say, what about the other, kundalini and etc. I say, I'll answer you. Very clearly, right?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, this is all right, Babaji.
Yes, correct.
This is all right. You can
No,
do
no,
that.
She's asked that question.
I have asked that.
Yes.
Therefore, I'm answering you.
Yes.
I'm answering
So
you.
let us proceed.
I'm answering. No, please. Are you working at this?
Yes, sir.
Oh, no, please. No gurus, no follow.
No gurus.
Oh, for God's
Working
sake.
at it.
Oh, for God.
Sir, the reason why I objected is that in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika text, they make a statement that this investigation into Kundalini is in order to strengthen you for your search for...
No.
No, I am saying
I don't
this.
say
They
I
say
don't-
this. No, they say it.
That's why I've grown up into this from
And they
childhood.
lie. And they lie. I am saying that I have found that those books, they say one thing and they have deviated, they have distorted, they have misled people, and I have really suffered agony because I know that this country has gone to dogs. One of the reasons is that in the name of religion we have spread poison. And therefore a man like me says that we must be greatly on our guard not to repeat that mistake.
I said,
There's
sir,
nothing else.
unless you are... Chuji, please, for God's sake, are you working at clearing up the house? That's the first question. Then Pupul comes along and says the second question. She says, I'm doing that. And I'm doing it per se, for itself.
Right.
And she says, these things are going around in the world, and I've heard a great deal about it. What do you say? That's all the question is.
Inquiry is valid.
Keep it to circuit, that's all the question is.
That's
What's the question? Is there power and energy which is not mechanistic, right? Which is endless, renewing itself? I say there is. Right? I say there is, most definitely. But it is not what is called kundalini.
That's why I asked.
I'm going, wait, I'm finished here. It is, the body must be sensitive, obviously, right? If you are working in clearing the house, the body becomes very sensitive. The body then has its own intelligence. Its own intelligence, not the intelligence which mind dictates to the body. The body then has its own intelligence, which then rejects anything that is not suitable to the body. This is, I mean, you can play with it, I know something about it. So, the body has its own intelligence. Therefore, the body becomes extraordinarily sensitive. Not sensitive to its desires, or sensitive to wanting something, but it becomes sensitive per se. Right? Right, Pupu? Are you following? Right?
Yes.
Right. Then what happens? Then you see, first of all, if you really want to, if you want me to talk about it, which I'm rather hesitant, because I've had a good deal of all this, so I'm not talking in air. The people who say they have kundalini awakening, I question that. If they are not working dhyana, they have not worked with dhyana but awakened it. Therefore, I question their validity, their truth, I'm not, you understand, I'm not antagonistic, but I question. A man who eats meat, wants publicity, wants this and that, and says, I've got kundalini working, I said, nonsense to myself. Right? So, there must be the cleansing of this house all the time. You know, ending this and that. Then, Prabhu says, please, can we talk about something which I feel must exist. Not theoretically, I have had a glimpse of it. I've had a feeling of it, which is an energy which is endless. And K comes along and says, yes, there is such a thing. An energy which is renewing itself all the time, which is not mechanistic, which has no cause, which has no beginning, and therefore no end. It is something that is like eternal movement. I'm just using these words, I'll change the words. I said that is. What value has it to the listener? Right, Papu? I say yes, and you listen to it. I say to myself, what value has that to you? Will you go off into that and not clean up the house, and get caught in that? In what? The Hatha Yoga, this, that, 10 different things.
Does that mean, sir, that to the person who inquires, the cultivation of the soil, which is the ending of suffering, is really
the only job you have?
Only the job.
Yeah. Nothing else. So look at these people. They're not clearing the house. They're completely sex maniacs. I've met God. Or some kind of idiocy going on with them. And they talk about it. I feel sorry. So, it's the most sacred thing, therefore you can't invite it. I don't. And you're all inviting.
But if it possesses you, without your invitation, if it possesses you.
If it possesses you, we are not invited.
Oh no, you don't exist. Sir, look, sir, clearing the house demands tremendous discipline. Not discipline of control, suppression, and it in itself demands tremendous what?
Energy.
No.
Ending your self-centered activity.
Yeah. It demands tremendous attention to all that. When you give your complete attention, there is then a totally different kind of thing taking place. An energy which is so you see, there is no repetition. It isn't coming and going. I have it one day and for a month I don't have it. Then it's not. I'm sorry, I'm just suggesting this, I'm not saying laying down the law. Child also implies can keep the mind completely empty. Go on. Can you?
For a while.
Hold my hand.
The emptiness gets filled up.
No.
It's not empty.
No. I've asked, can you keep it empty? Can the mind keep itself empty? Then there is that energy. You don't have even to ask for it. Scientists are saying, sir, I've talked to Dr. Bohm about this. Jesus. When there is vast, when there is space, it is empty and therefore full of energy. You understand, sir? So, in cleansing the house, in ending the thing of the house, sorrow and all the rest of it, can the mind be completely, without any motive, without any desire, without any artificial effort, be completely empty, not occupied?
Sir, in Madras you spoke in this strain about speaking from silence.
What?
Speaking from silence. It was more or less in the same context. I wonder if you could say something.
What is that silent practice?
Gopalji, will you were also.
He said in Madras you had talked about speaking from silence.
Well, yes. Yeah.
But I would just like to ask one question, sir. Is the mutation of human consciousness, the total transformation of human consciousness, in the very action which comes from preparing the soil, or the preparing of the soil is the only thing possible, and transformation, mutation, energy is
all that
on the outside?
Yes, when this is taking place, when you're working at this, the house, keeping the house clean, all the rest of it, the other things come naturally. You follow? It isn't you are preparing the soil for that.
In the very process, is the very doing of it.
Yes. That is meditation.
And the nature of that is the transformation of the human mind.
You see, as Appasad was saying, which is that we are programmed to this conditioning. When there is an stopping of it, there is an ending of it. When you pull the plug out of the computer, it can't function anymore. So in the same way, if there is an ending, then
so that this involves some clarification of the word movement. Movement from the center to the periphery, center to the periphery, the continuity, and the movement of renewal. They are not the same things.
No, sir.
But the movement of renewal is something.
No, sir. Look, the movement from the center to the circumference, and from the circumference to the center, we all know that very well, which is the selfishness moving in one direction or in another, or in various directions, is still selfish. Now, the question is, can that center, which is selfishness, end? And not keep on and on and on. Can that end? When that ends, there is no movement of time. That's all. This is a movement of time.
When you use the word renewal, that creates.
No, all right, I won't cut it out. This is the movement of time. There, back to here, from there to there, which we all do. That is in the area. That is what is called time. When that stops, time stops. That's it's not an agreement.
No,
it is. So, when there is no movement of selfishness, there's totally different kind of a movement.
Sir, if the time stops, the space also vanishes.
What?
The time stops, the space also vanishes.
So. Not if. So, have you done any of this thing? Have you said, look, can time stop? You know what it means? So unless you have done some of it, it's really meaningless. So unless you say, find out what time is. That is movement of becoming. Right? I am this, I must be that. Or this is wrong, that should be. That's movement of time. To end all that.
Almost 11.
5 to 11.
5 to 11.
Stops.
Have I answered your question, Prabhu?
You were saying something about keeping the mind. Can the mind be totally empty?
Sure. Why do you want the mind empty? Your mind, one's mind, is occupied now, isn't it? Huh? Isn't it, sir?
Yes, sir.
Occupied. It's something like a huh? Like a dynamo, always moving. Can you stop it? Can the brain itself realize the wastage of this movement? And say, yes, that's now. Can you do it?
So is the very understanding the dissolution of the center? I mean, does the center dissolve?
No, you asked one question, sir, which is, You said, would you talk about something?
No, sir, you were talking about that. You said that can the mind totally be empty?
Yes.
You were saying something about it and you stopped.
Yes, I said, unless the mind, which is consciousness is its content, right?
Yes.
Content being worry, fear, sorrow, and all the rest of it, which we've gone to. The content makes up consciousness. Now, can there be an emptying of the content? And when there is, the mind is empty.
Empty of continuity.
And empty.
No, look, empty of content, yes, but does the continuity of
there is no
movement of thought? I mean,
no. When something ends, so there is no continuity.
Of that.
Content ends, yeah.
Huh?
Something else may continue.
No.
Yes.
You always want
Yes.
something more.
Yes.
When the content is empty of consciousness, your consciousness, as you know, is not. Huh?
Yes.
That's all.
Consciousness as I know.
Oh, gee. No, sir. What is your consciousness, sir?
What I know.
What is it you know?
Just whatever is inside. I mean,
Well,
the
what is
content.
it?
The content.
Be simple. So what is it you know?
Nothing. I mean, whatever I've been taught, what I've been conditioned.
Yes,
whatever.
all that saffron robe,
Yes.
and ring, all that is part of your consciousness.
Yes.
Right? Is it possible to empty all that? Not to be not to be attached, not to belong to anything, not to have any conclusion, not to have fear, not to have any sorrow. Okay? All that. Can you do it?
So I've been trying.
No, you can't try. Either you're doing it and you know I have not done it.
No, I'm understanding it, yes.
Now, are you doing it?
I am doing it, yes.
Which means ending fear.
Yes.
Which means, are you ending fear or still fear lurks somewhere?
It is lurking somewhere.
And therefore pull it out.
Yes.
Pull it out, look at it, watch it, let it grow, flower, and let it land by itself. Like any flower, if you allow it to grow in the garden, it blooms and lasts for a certain period and then withers away. So in the same way, can you do that? Fear?
I watch every time fear comes.
Every time, and then what?
And
then,
it disappears.
of course, the moment you watch it disappears.
It disappears.
I know, and then comes again.
Well, there are different aspects to fear, you know. I mean,
Yes, of course. But the root of fear is obviously there's
the
only
same.
one.
It's the same sensation which.
It has got many branches.
Yes.
But the fear has one root. So, can you uproot that? Can the mind uproot that root and say finished? And same way with sorrow and all the rest of it. At the end of it, if you have no love and compassion, you have to begin all over again because you have missed the boat. There's somewhere it went wrong. Right, sir? If there is no love and compassion, you can just as well whistle in the dark. And all these people have no love and compassion. So, emptying of the mind is the emptying of consciousness of its content, which is content, fear and so. Do it. which means you have to be aware of every movement of thought. You understand? Not miss one thought.
There's another. You feel moments of emptiness. You feel moments where the mind is stopped, and then again the thing continues. Again the process continues. Now, what is that process? I mean, is that the total? You have not understood, or you've not emptied out totally, but these moments happen, and they become larger, or they. No, the moments of feeling of emptiness, I mean, where the mind stops, I mean, the movement is not there, and you feel those moments, and then again the process of thought starts, and again you're back into
Forget the moments of emptiness,
yes,
and go on with that.
I see. Yes.
Because if you say, well, I like to go back to that emptiness, you're just living in memory.
Right.
Please, sir, I'm not laying down the law, I'm just suggesting.
So we just want assurances, that's all. That we have to look, this is somewhere, this is what is happening. We want to be assured that you're on the right process.
I'll tell you the shortest way. I'll tell you, sir, the shortest way. Do you want to know? Which is just to observe and that is to observe so that there is no observer, to observe without the past. Then only you see the totality of fear, and that's finished. That is direct if you can do it.